Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special Geek First review. My name is Travis Snail, as my sock gets caught on on the cords. Just great way to start a podcast. Hey, I'm sure there's somebody out there giving me a nice 1-star review on Apple Podcasts. Oh, his sock got stuck and he got distracted. Why did he keep that cut in? Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's the same thing as my name is Travis now. It's the same thing as some people. One of my favorite 1-star Apple podcast reviews was like, oh my goodness, they left the mic on for 3 minutes and they didn't even know, and they were talking about their lives and a story. That's the point. I know if you're new, I can understand that, but maybe listen to some other stuff if you kind of get our vibe. Our vibe is just hanging out. Our vibe is just talking movies, games, and all that good sort of geeky stuff. And that's what we're going to be doing today, kind of, Irishman, film geek-wise. So what could I pimp that we got going on right now? In the next 24, 48 hours, whenever this releases, Dylan and Kirkland are going to be releasing a Knives Out review. I'm very jealous that I don't get to be on that one, but life is busy. I got friends in town. I got family in town. At least this one, my family / dad wanted to watch this one. So you can kind of, Scorsese, easy to pitch. So what else? We got Knives Out. Mandalorian is always happening. So go back. We reviewed the first 3 episodes. We'll be reviewing the 4th one. We're going to review every episode. They usually come out within 24, 40 hours, unless we tell you otherwise. We got newscasts. We got a bunch of other game reviews. Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Luigi's Mansion, Jedi Fallen Order. All heavy spoilers and story details, everything like that. I'm trying to think. Me and Kyle just did a dynamic duo. Funny enough, talking about Martin Scorsese in cinema. We talked about what was it? Our 2020 comic book film preview. So I'm sure Martin was listening to that, and I'm sure he loved hearing about the MCU. But we looked over 2020 and just see what is happening. We kind of ranked them as far as excitement, just gave them a number and whatnot. So lots of stuff popping off. If you like any of those podcasts, or if you like what I'm about to do right now, please give us a written review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out a lot. And just subscribe or like or rate anything like that. That helps us grow and helps us meet more fans. Thank you very much. We've gotten a few fans from The Mandalorian that have been reaching out and talking to us a lot. So we're always down to discuss. As long as you're nice, we're here for you. So please do that if you like what I'm doing, if you like what the guys do tomorrow night, if you like anything we do, Appreciate it. Facebook, Twitter, the whole bang. You get our schedule, the whole bang, the whole shebang. So let's see what is happening. I think that's everything. So now we can talk about The Irishman. So this is very exciting. If you've not listened to a Geek First review before, I am going to do a non-spoilers portion, and then I'll give you the 3, 2, 1. There's no geeks here to say Geek First symbol, so it's just me assembling with you, the listeners. And then I'll get into spoilers, and it's a true story, so I guess if you haven't seen the movie, I think you could stick around if you really needed to be tempted one way or another, but I'll still give you the benefit of the doubt when it happens. Excuse me. So The Irishman. This is a movie that has, if you're a film geek, has been talked about for quite a while. I think I feel like we've been hearing it. I'm trying to think. I feel like Wolf of Wall Street time was the first time I heard about it, but I feel like it was during the making of that. So that's a good, it wasn't Wolf of Wall Street, 2012, so we're going on 8 years, my goodness. So Martin Scorsese gave you, and this is, for those people, the 1-star review of oh my goodness, all they talk about is this. This is for new listeners. If you've not listened to this before, I'm a huge Martin Scorsese fan. I got many favorite directors, but I always say the top 3 with bullet points are Nolan, Tarantino, and Scorsese. No specific order. I always put Nolan up there a little bit because he gave me The Dark Knight, and I'm very grateful for that. But any given day, I could say this is one of my favorite films. They all have multiple films. Both Nolan, Tarantino, and Scorsese have multiple films in my top 10. So I got Departed and Goodfellas from Scorsese. I got Pulp Fiction and maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's creeping in there. And then I got Dark Knight and oh boy, why am I forgetting? I'm doing a terrible job. Inception, there we go. But Inception is not in my top 10, so maybe I lied to you. Either way, I'm a huge Martin Scorsese fan. I've watched all his films. I love most of the stuff he produces as well. The majority, the reason I say that is because to lead into, I love Boardwalk Empire. I'm a huge Boardwalk Empire. I'm a huge mob and kind of crime fan, and I don't know honestly, lots of times I can say I don't know where I picked that up. I think it was seeing Goodfellas, to be honest. And I feel like the quintessential mob movie is Goodfellas, and the other one is Godfather. But it's a bit more in a deeper family sort of way, where Goodfellas is the flashy rock star, like look at this lifestyle. But I feel like when I look back at mobster movies, those were the first two I saw. And then the other reason why I credit Martin Scorsese is one, like I said, I love Boardwalk Empire, and I'll talk about that because there's tons of casts in here from that. And I'm excited to. Oh, I better pull up the IMDb so I don't forget anyone's name. But I'm excited to talk about that. Is The Departed. That's where I actually really got affiliated with him as far as really liking him, because I'd seen Goodfellas and Godfather when I was younger. They're just one of those things you kind of do. But the very first thing I saw right when I was getting into actual movies and whatnot and enjoying them was, and I say movies, and this is where Scorsese will be happy, film or cinema, because I remember that was 2006, and 2007 is also when Transformers came out. It sounds weird I'm talking about this now, but the reason I'm talking about this is because when I saw The Departed, that was the first movie I saw that I really enjoyed that was just talking and dialogue, and that was 2006, so I was... what was I? I was about 13 years old when that came out. And that's, for me, was the first movie I enjoyed where I'm like, wow, these characters are just having conversation. There's actions. Yeah, there's a miniature of gunfighting, but it's like, I'm following along. I'm really liking this. And then the following year, because 2007, I remember Transformers came out, and that's tons of my friends were talking about being very excited. And I'm like, oh, of course I'm excited. I don't love Transformers like Taylor Field, but I was excited. And then I saw it, and I didn't give a shit about it. And there's so many people that go, oh, the first one's good. No, the first one's not good. And that was my thing, where it's just like, that's where it really felt like there was a change in my film take in. And anything as far as whether it's this podcast or whether it's me wanting to do writing or directing or anything involved with film in the future, whether that's just even independent stuff with the geeks we've talked about. Get ready. This decade going into 2020, we have some plans. You never know if there's a Geekverse movie popping up, but I can honestly credit my love and passion for film to Martin Scorsese and to The Departed. And yet it's just one of those, a lot of people say it's a best of, and it's one of those, I'm sure people would have said, hey, eventually you would have found one film that you loved. And that's probably true, but that was the film that did it. It's just like, it's the same way as I always talk about Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer. I didn't like Girls till I saw her, and that's the one. That's the special one. Sure, it might happen down the line, but it holds a special place in my heart. And now that's where, and I defend The Departed all the time, but that's where I went into his back catalog, whether it be Cape Fear, whether it be King of Comedy, whether it be Aviator, all these things that I really enjoy, and that's why he's in my top 3, because I don't think that's where I guess my top 3 directors, maybe I just got taste, but I don't think he's made ever a bad film. There's not a film I could say that was a bad movie. Even Tarantino, I'd say the same thing, because I'm a big defender of Death Proof. There's certain ones that could get close to it, maybe Jackie Brown, but even then, it's still very well made, and to me, it's either a movie that's, every time I see a Scorsese movie, it's great, or it's really good, and maybe I just don't love it as many of the other ones. So with this movie, lots of hype. I love Martin Scorsese, and I'm a huge, also, I was so pissed off at everybody the year Science came out, because I fucking love Science. Go back, I reviewed it a few years ago. Nobody's seen that movie. It's picking up steam now, but like for Martin Scorsese, film icon, maybe arguably the greatest film director of all time. He's on the Mount Rushmore, and nobody talks about this film, and it's so good. Even hardcore film fans and friends that I have are like, oh yeah, I never saw it. I love that movie, and that's where the transition to the Iron Man. Oh, that's a Freudian slip right there, the Iron Man. The Irishman, which really it should have just been called I Heard You Paint Houses, because that's what the book's called. That's what the movie's called for the longest time. And minor spoilers. The movie starts, the credits are fades to black, and then it's like I heard, and then a scene fades to black. I heard you paint houses. So it's like that's the title of the movie, really. And then the end of the movie, it's like The Irishman, and it goes black. It's like I heard you paint houses. So really, you can tell Netflix was like, that title's too long. Like, we'll let you do everything but the title. We need that just a little shortened up. But so lots of hype for many, many reasons. And for this film, I Heard You Paint Houses, it was not a rocky road. I shouldn't say that, because as I'm watching it, I was, because Dylan has seen Knives Out, and we were talking about Knives Out and Irishman and blah, 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 and Knives Out getting great reviews. And then I said, you never know, though. Irishman got great reviews, and we'll see how it pans out. And and he's like, oh, that's too bad. I'm like, it's not bad or anything like that. It just wasn't great at first, in my opinion. I thought it was good, very well made, and I was still enjoying it. That's the thing where I hate. That's where, if you followed me at all in this podcast, I very much try to, if this movie is definitely not a 7 out of 10, don't worry, it's higher than that. But like something at 7 out of 10, I can tell you how much love and passion I have for that 7 out of 10 because you don't have to entirely love a movie. Check out J.J. Abrams' comments about Star Trek or Star Wars lately about the toxic fandom. It's just, you can look at something and really enjoy and not think it's the best thing ever. And that honestly was the beginning of this movie. But luckily, it got better, and it got better, and it got better. And maybe not even better is the word, but I was enjoying it more and more and more, and I was getting more enthralled. And honestly, how it reminds me of, this is going to be a way left field for maybe some people that aren't gamers, but it's kind of my experience with Death Stranding. Go check out that review. But that was the same way. I was like, okay, I'm enjoying it. I see what's going on, but if this kind of keeps happening or this doesn't pick up, I think I'll like it at a certain level. But this had that same effect where Death Stranding, same thing. As it kept going along and along, I felt more and more in that world. I felt like it was surrounding me. And this film is very much like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, as well as nothing as far as the plot, the characters. Just the fact that when I look at that film, I feel like it's everything Tarantino's done in his career all combined together in a great way as well. I feel like you have your Goodfellas in there. You got your Wolf of Wall Street. You got your Casino. You got your Silence as well. And it's just this great blend of Scorsese, but it's also, I don't want to say his most different film, because I think that was Silence, in my opinion. If you look at his whole oh my goodness. Take 6, filmography. Following these priests in a very depressing movie. That's something different. I guess you got Hugo out there or whatnot, but this movie, it kind of poses to get you in the door as a classic mob movie, like The Goodfellas, like Departed, in a way that's going to be, very quick, snappy dialogue, very fastly paced, kick-ass soundtrack. And it's not that at all. And that's where I think that threw me for a loop for a little bit. And that's why for this film, I will score this at the end, but I'm going to full on say that this could be, I'll do the first time ever here. I'll score it at the beginning. This is easily a 9 or higher for me. And that's all I'm saying for now. I'm not saying it's a 9 for sure. This was a film that I remember, I think when we did reviews Always the Night After, we did that with Dunkirk, and we did that. There was one other one that was a film when we did, and it's just like, I really need to sit with that. And this one, right when it finished, and this is what I can say is a good thing for it, I wanted to watch it again right when it was done. And that was coming from somebody that the first hour I thought was good, and I was locked in, but not extremely locked in. One, I hate Kelowna because we don't get this movie in theaters, and luckily my life is kind of a very busy right now. I don't want to say a mess, but just messy as far as planning. So I maybe couldn't have saw it on release in the theaters, but I still would have preferred to see it there. I prefer to see all movies in the theaters. I'm that way as far as when you talk about Martin and Nolan talking about having the theater experience. I'm all for that. That's where it should be, So there's that, and that's where I think right away you don't get locked in. You have things around you. I have kids, and they were preoccupied. We had dinner and stuff like that, but still, it's just life. Your phone's right by you. Someone trying to get a hold of you. La-di-da. So that's one thing, and that's why I want to see it again. Lock myself away when Emily and the girls go away. But 2, it was just, I had heard that it was a different type of movie, but it is a very different type of movie in the best way of, I feel like many times we say this just feels like a day in a cowboy's life or a samurai's life or blah, blah, blah. This to me feels almost the pacing of a Western. It's not a Western, but it's in the way that you are following a mobster, hitman, criminal, and Robert De Niro. And you're seeing his life playing out from as a, 40-year-old to about, I'm going to say 70s, 80s, somewhere in there. And you're literally seeing it playing out in the way that the scenes don't feel very snappy, don't feel like that kick-ass soundtrack. It feels like you are just watching his life. It feels almost documentary in a sense the way it's made. There's no like office like style camera, but things like that. But it feels like with the narration, the pacing, the way things play out, it's not in your face like a Wolf of Wall Street or Goodfellas. There's violence in this movie, but it's quick. And sometimes it's meaningful, but meaningless at the same time, as a way that Robert De Niro will kill this guy and then just go on his life. It's not made to, there's no slow motion, there's not a big score, there's not this huge lead up. It's just, this guy needs to be taken out, and boom, he gets taken out. And that happens to a majority of the characters, and it's not in a way that it feels lazy. It's in a way to show that for this character, killing is it's just a thing. It's just a thing. It's just a part of life. It's just something he has to do. And everybody, doesn't matter if you're the bottom totem pole or you're high at the totem pole, you're going to get killed. And it's going to be pretty much the same way. You meet your maker. And they say something similar like that in this movie. And not a spoiler, we're all going to die. But it's kind of that way of we all have expiration dates. And that's where this character might not feel so bad or have the remorse. And even that it has that theme of with the killing in this movie, it's not stylized. There's not a, there's not like, oh, can he do it? Is he gonna do it? It is very to the point. It is very realistic in that sense. I imagine in my point of view, because I've not been around gunfire, thank goodness, but the way it just happens so quickly and effortlessly, and that's how it could happen, right? If you're imagining I'm sitting right here and someone just comes up and shoots me with a gun, you think about the movie, you think about someone like, and I do not mean to do this, but you think about something like Zack Snyder, who's great. And I like those visuals still, like the Death of the Waynes, very slow motion, but look how film glossy that is, right? Look how stylized it is. Look how so much, and to his credit, look how much thought has been put into that. This takes that away in the sense of it strips it all down just to go, if someone walks up to me with a gun, shoots me in the head, I'm dead and that's it. It's just done. My body goes limp. It's over. The guy walks away. The guy gets arrested. That's the end of my story. And that's what this movie does many times. So it feels very cold, but very calculated. Not in the, not in a pun where it is calculated, but Scorsese has calculated this. Where in the past he's done, to me, the biggest examples is he doesn't kill them. But if you think about Leo in The Departed, there's a point where he's trying to get the attention of Jack Nicholson's character. And he beats up two guys in a grocery store, and the music is timed with his punches, and he takes like a jacket rail, and he stabs the guy, and I love the song, and I love the whole setup of that. This is not that movie, and this is a thing where I do think you have to sit with it for a while, because like I said, I was enjoying it. It wasn't until about an hour 15 is when I was really locked, and was like, okay, I'm starting to really love this movie. But at first, I was uneasy about it. And I don't think it is a perfect film. There's certain characters that I wish I got a little bit more of, especially it is 3.5 hours. So I wish that, I don't know if I could have swapped something or whatnot, but at the same time, this is supposed to be kind of a look back at his life. And that's why I do want to watch it again. This is why maybe I'll start doing this on the review. It's a 9 or higher because, that's, Dylan might be happy that I'm going less away from the number system. It's just that I legitimately have to sit with it for a while. And it's even the same way as like the reverse of Roma last year, where I didn't give it a score, but I gave it a pass. I didn't give it a score because I couldn't settle a number on it because I knew how well it was made, but I didn't really enjoy it, and it's a movie I'm never going to watch again. At first, I didn't think I was never going to watch this movie again because it's Scorsese, but I did think, this is going to be a, more lower tier one that I don't revisit that much, like The Aviator, like Hugo. I would say it's mid-upper tier. It doesn't, as of yet, cross into the, for me, I don't know, I would say Goodfellas, Departed, and Wolf of Wall Street. And I think there's movies that are better than The Departed, but it just has that kind of sentiment for me. And I'll still defend it. I love that movie. There's so many great performances. Jack Nicholson is fantastic. And that's where I guess I can go into some of the acting. Everyone's great. Like, it's not a big surprise. We've heard how it's been talked about for Academy Award nominations and all this. And everything I'd say as far as the hype that goes, believe it all. I saw the for your consideration. The only thing is, before we get back to the acting, the score is not good in this film. It started and I was like, okay, I like this. And it's like the same beat over and over and over again. And for the 3.5 hours, it really knows this, because like this is just the same song or like the same type of music notes or beats. So that was disappointing. And you don't need a score to make a great film, but it's when the score feels like it was it sounds harsh, but in my opinion, I do YouTube, other people do YouTube. If you want to use music, YouTube has an audio free section. Kind of sounds like that. Sometimes you find some good tracks, but sometimes it's just very generic music. It felt like that. So there's lots of times where the soundtrack in this movie is good, but it's not Martin Scorsese good in the way of that. Anything that would knock against the movie is not the soundtrack, but that wouldn't raise it up, because Scorsese is known for these great soundtracks. And this movie, on purpose, is very deliberate of not picking kind of kick-ass rock and roll songs or classic rock songs, because it's trying to get you in a mood. It's trying to make you feel and really live this guy's life. So without that, and then the actual score being kind of mad, that'd be a negative for me. But the acting, De Niro is great. De Niro, I'd say he, along with the movie, gets better and better because he gets to do more. The first hour and a half, he is really just, I don't know if I want to say 2 hours, so that's why I'll say hour and a half. He is just, I would say classic De Niro, and not in the way of the phoning in De Niro, because we've seen many things like a Dirty Grandpa or something like that where he doesn't care, he's clearly there for the paycheck. But this is De Niro, he's working hard, he's doing good, but we've seen him do similar roles like this. Tough guy bodyguard who's a little caring, right? Family man, is trying to keep things afloat. We've seen that tough guy. And that was one thing that disappointed me where, and this is a minor spoiler because it happens in 20 seconds, but it's very minor in my opinion. If you look at someone like Henry Hill in Goodfellas, he's set up to be a kid and he looks up as these mobsters as like gods, and he'll do anything, and you slowly see that he's this good kid and he gets contorted into this criminal, right? I feel that the jump happens for funny, a 3.5-hour movie happens very quickly. You get signs that he could maybe want to take shortcuts, but he to me feels a bit more mellow. He has been through a war. He feels a bit more mellow, just maybe a low-time criminal, just kind of get by, get some extra cash. But then I felt like the transition to him being very, hey, what you doing here? You can't do that, like classic De Niro, like, oh, come on, wise guy, like that sort of thing. That happened a little too quickly for me on my first watch. It might feel more natural, but the way he was playing the character initially was very kind of docile and inward, which I was appreciating. But then, like I said, throughout more the middle, he was kind of classic De Niro, meeting with mobsters, stuff like that. And good. He's doing a great job at that. It's the ending when he gets to really show, because that's one thing, some of the best movies, and hopefully everything's well made about the movie, but this is probably the biggest... I'd say the best two things are the kind of amalgamation of Scorsese's work, but then also this is clearly a movie that has something to say, but not in a way of political or not in a way of about pollution or anything we're dealing with themes. It has like some of that, a little bit. It does have to do with that as far as dealing with fame and everything like that and violence, but I'd say the biggest thing about this is Scorsese looking back on his career and his life and the life of others that he's heard about, because you go look at Martin Scorsese, the way he grew up. This is he knew people very much like this, and that's why he can nail down this mobster vibe. But to me, it is a man looking back at his life and really going, was it worth it? And you look at Goodfellas, and spoilers for Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street. Goodfellas, it ends with, Henry Hill becomes an informant, gets a new life. To me, he did that only because he had no other choice and they were probably going to kill him. Didn't really feel like he wanted to do it, just was last option. Jordan Belfort shows that no matter what happens to this guy, he still is maybe a slimy skis ball. This shows that you, as a mobster, do a lot of terrible things. And it can get you lots of great things, money, power, but at the end of the day, what is that all worth? And we've seen that done before, but I think this is one of the best ways of showing it, because you really see it's not just to me like a last 20 minutes or 15 minutes of that. The last hour is really a guy dealing with the mistakes and the sins of his past, and it's really caught up to him. And I don't want to say much more, but it's a very melancholy, depressing ending for a guy that's a piece of shit. He's a remorseless killer that killed hundreds of people. So you don't, I think you appreciate the journey and you go, I understand that he feels bad, but I personally don't feel remorseful for him. And that's the thing that can be debated, because people have said that with Wolf of Wall Street, that, it glorified him. I don't think it did. It showed what happened. But this really, to me, was okay, if you didn't get in Wolf of Wall Street that last half an hour, I'm going to give you an hour of showing you, no, this is not a good life. And look at what you lose. And you can live, you can live so high and mighty for the majority of your life, but eventually that karma is going to come back and kick you in the ass, going to kick you in the nuts, and it's going to hurt more than anything else you've ever felt in your life. And that's where, to me, it really shows that, is it worth it? And that's where I think this shows before, where I think when I was talking about the kick-ass snappy action scenes or the kick-ass soundtrack, he, to me, does that deliberately. Should know, this is not a life you want to live. Sure, there's some high spots, but at the end of the day, look at where it can get you, And like I said, I'm trying to be cagey on spoilers, but we know Jimmy Hoffa, we know the stories, we know other people, we know there's a book about this character, so that's why, to me, it's all real life things. And I just want to applaud Scorsese for that, because I already felt like I had got those in those other films, but he tripled down on it, and that's where De Niro's best acting comes in. It is, God, I can't remember. I want to say it's like, the best since, what is that Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence movie? Silver Linings Playbook, or maybe his little cameo in American Hustle. And he's great in Joker. He's having a nice little renaissance, but it's like, this is the best since I don't know, like way before Meet the Fockers. This is at the ending. I'd say the second half of the movie, it's Godfather tier acting. I think the first half of the movie, he's doing really good in stuff that he's comfortable in and stuff that maybe some people could not do as well as him. So it's just stuff he's kind of done before in their little variations, where the end is really where you get his crescendo. Pacino's great. Pacino is same thing, his best performance in a long, long time, like maybe since like Ocean's 13, where he played a fun character, or what was that, whatever that Dr. Jack movie was, where he played the guy that was euthanizing people and things like that. But he does come to play. I think I'm the least impressed with his acting, and I think that's just because I'm overhyped of other people that I listen to. I didn't listen to reviews, but just you see the chatter if you run the podcast. If I film a lot, I follow critics and whatnot. I don't click on the reviews because I don't want to have that influence me, but it's just Pacino's never been better. Pacino, blah, blah, blah. Pacino is great, but if I had to rank De Niro, Pesci, and Pacino, those three, he's the last because he's good. He does some really good emotional stuff. Same thing, more near the back end, but there's a lot of stuff where he's ooh-ah, and he's Pacino. He slips in that a bit, but he is really good, and I think it's one of those that he is getting a lot of praise because people go, oh my goodness, Pacino can still do that. I never thought Pacino couldn't do that. I just think it was just kind of, he was in some bad movies and he made some bad choices, but I always thought he still had it in him. So it is, and I guess that's where I would give to people, and that's where I think I'm sounding negative, but I think that was just an overhyped thing. He does have a lot of really good subtle scenes, a lot of solemn scenes, and the chemistry with all three of them are great, but he spends a lot of time with De Niro, and as usual, it's fantastic. They didn't spend much time in Heat together, but it's Heat levels and not Righteous Kill. So Pacino's great. Like I said, he does a bit Pacino-isms, but it's same thing as best he's been in a long time. Pesci is phenomenal. Pesci is the thing I absolutely love about this movie. I would say there's Godfather, what the hell? Goodfellas is the quintessential role. You got Home Alone in there as, my shout out. My Cousin Vinny. He's great in Casino. For me, this is up there with Goodfellas because it's not that I want to say that I didn't think he could do this, but he is playing such a different character. And the same thing, it almost subverts expectations, not in the film, it doesn't set you up, but it's just what you know of Martin Scorsese. When you get in there, you're expecting that very flashy, punk rock, swearing, little asshole Pesci. No, he is very scary in this movie, but not in a way that like Anton Chigurh from Skyfall, where it's just like his presence. He has a presence, but it's scary in a way that, and not even a way that he's going to come out and kill you right away. It's just, there's an aura around this character. And the subtlety, you don't want to talk about Pacino doing subtlety, the subtlety in Pesci, whether it's little things he does with his face, little eye movements, just the way he pronounces and speaks on things is fantastic. And as far as award season goes, I think Pacino will get a lot of heat for this, but I want Pesci to get, if I had to pick one, Pesci all the way in supporting. He just floored me. His scenes are so good. His scenes are so personal and they're so emotional. And that's where Pacino has great chemistry with De Niro, but those I think are a bit more of the budding fun romance. The relationship that De Niro and Pesci have in this film is unlike any relationship they've ever had before. It is and that's why De Niro's playing a younger person. He is playing an older father, but in an older father where it's just, I'd almost feel like an adopted older father, where you almost feel like you might owe this man something, because he does give him many opportunities in this life, but he is scary, but he doesn't want to be scary. He's a very complex character, and the best way, and I'll say some bit more in spoilers, but I honestly just think you can't understand it until you watch the movie, and it's something that I see Joe Pesci, of course, but it wasn't Joe Pesci. It was that character, and he's so matter to the fact, and he's so cold, and it's fantastic. It is obviously Pesci hasn't acted in a while, so you could say, the best in years, but he is on another level, and there's a reason why I can tell that they really, because for a while he came in and then he jumped down and he came back in. I know why they want him to do this, because I was geared. I was like, I just can't wait to see Joe Pesci do his thing. He didn't do his thing, but he was the only thing right away at the first film where I thought, or the first hour, I was like, oh, this is all good. He was the one thing where like, this is great, and he's phenomenal, and he's doing something different, and he's outstanding in this movie. This is arguably the best he's ever been. So big shout out to Pesci. Like I said, it is one of my favorite characters of this past year. It's just something different. That's where I got to watch it again and really think about this guy. And he has so many layers, and all of them do have layers, but he is the most layered. So Joe Pesci is great. There's other cast in here, but it's just to sprinkle it with goodness. There's like Jesse Plemons and Ray Romano and Bobby Cannavale and is it Stephen Graham? I can't remember. He played Al Capone in what's his face? Boardwalk Empire. I'm a big fan of him. Let's see. Can I pull it up? If not, I'll give up. Stephen Graham. Okay, I got the name right. Which is very funny because there's some scenes where you see him and Pesci together, and Pesci is playing the I think there's only one or two scenes, but you just see him around other characters, and he's kind of playing the like egg on like younger Pesci, very similar like he did Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire. And it's funny to see like Pesci is very reserved, very thoughtful, very very intelligent individual who is just taking it all in, trying to be the best. And that's the best thing about Pesci's character. He's like really caring, but he'll care for you as far as he can. But it's not in a cutthroat way where in Goodfellas, the second they turn on you, you just feel like these bastards. Like you feel like nothing. You feel like if this guy turns on you, he feels heartbroken that he has to do it, but he's going to do it. More about Pesci. The rest of the cast is good. I didn't feel like I got enough of them to say any of them were great. They were just all solid. They showed up to play, and, I would take that. I thought, would it be a con for me to go, there's a lot of people they put in here that didn't really do too much, but then I thought, would I take that, or would I just take a bunch of actors I didn't know doing that? And if they're good actors, sure, but I went, okay, and I love Ray Romano, so I was like, okay, I'll be fine with this. Again, second watch, I want to know because I expected maybe a little more. Same thing at Harvey Keitel. I think Harvey Keitel is barely in this movie. You could have got many people to do this role. You go, oh, it's Harvey, and they've worked together before, so it's great. But when you first see him, like, oh, I can't wait to see what he does. And he is not in the film that much, really, and he doesn't really have a meaty role. So I could say I'm disappointed in those aspects, but that's not really a knock against the film because that's my bias. Let's see. The only other thing I will say is the de-aging. So obviously, De Niro, the rest of the crew, older guys. And they're playing younger versions. We heard all about this going into it. I think it worked. It's tough. It worked. I'd say the first hour really took me out because, minor spoilers, the first hour is mostly about when De Niro's younger. And I think it's something about De Niro's eyes. It's funny. This is what I'll say. Joe Pesci and Al Pacino, I think because they aged them down a little bit, but not too much, it worked fantastic. And De Niro, I was trying to watch in interviews and whatnot, look at pictures. His eyes in the movie are what's really taking me out because his eyes, and we've kind of talked about this before, there's kind of like a dead eyes, like glassy look in when they do the de-aging. I felt this had that a lot of the times. I could get past that, but I feel like the younger stuff was the hardest. And there was one flashback to, you've seen pictures and in trailers when he's in war. Not good. That one's not good at all. It feels very video gamey, very plastic. And I think the biggest thing was and I'd heard Scorsese in interviews talk about how they'd be like, oh, like sit up straight, how I'm not even doing, or talk higher, or talk lower, you're this age. I think he did that for the actors, which was good. But there's only so far you could go with that. And it sounds like a weird thing to have as a con. And same thing, I eventually might say this movie for me is like a 10 one day once I see it again. But as far as like technical aspect, this is new to him. And he got the acting stuff down, I imagine. But there's a scene where De Niro goes to beat up a guy. And you can tell this is a 7-year-old man. And he's supposed to be playing 40. And and that goes to everybody else. And that's why maybe in the theaters wouldn't have, because you might be a bit more locked in. But it took me right out. The way he's moving, he's shuffling along. He's like kicking a guy, but it looks like a way, if you saw like a YouTube video of a couple seniors getting a fight, it looked like that. I don't mean any disrespect, but I don't care if it is a 67-year-old De Niro doing that. That's fine. That's the way he's going to work. But when it is, he's taking down a younger man, he's supposed to be in his 40s, and he's moving around at that rate, and it doesn't look believable, takes me right out. And that happened with Captain Marvel with Sam Jackson. But the thing was, Sam Jackson, he moved around a little bit, but he was not the main character. De Niro's the main character, and the character may be different ages throughout the movie, but De Niro as the actor is that same age throughout the whole time. So I think they did as best as they could, but I think that there's certain shots where like this guy where he's beating him up, that's a classic Scorsese one where he's tracking and they kind of stop. It reminds me of Henry Hill where, he finds out, I can't remember her name right now, but his girl gets beat up. He goes there, tracks Henry all the way to the car. He beats up the guy with the gun and he yells and then he tracks him back, right? He's very similar to that. But the thing was, there's even a cut, I think, in Goodfellas where he does that, but it maybe cuts to him doing the gun and it goes back to it. They could have used that. They could have used an upward shot, and again, I'm not gonna. You can say whatever you want in the comments. This is Martin Scorsese. I could never lace up his fucking boots. But I'm just saying, from a viewer, what caught me off guard is that took me out, and that was the thing that would probably dock me a little bit of points, because I think you could have shot that a better way to hide that, and I think that happens a few times where they're acting the best they can and they're trying to be 50 or 40, and it's just an arrow because the other people don't really have too much action. But that one scene in particular kind of happens in an hour, and there's a few others, but there's one in particular. It's just, I don't believe for a second this could beat him up, and it's again, very egregious comparison, but it's like My Name is Dolomite. They show this fight scene, the classic one where he misses the leg kick and it's so obvious, and the director goes, "Oh, is that good?" Or he goes, "Is that good?" He's like, "It's as good as it's gonna be," or "I can't get any better," something like that, whatever Snipe says. And that's for comedy, and that's a parody. The scene is nowhere near as bad as that, but that gave me that vibe a little bit of it. Like, there wasn't any way we could do this, any other trickery we could use, and I just think that is Scorsese. I don't know, maybe not thinking full, which sounds bad because I read interviews about Scorsese doing that, like him talking about this, and it sounded like though when he was talking about it, was more about the acting and making sure the actors were like that. So I wonder, from a filmmaking standpoint, even from whoever was the DP, should have maybe covered that up a bit better, because that would take me out. And some of the de-aging at the beginning did take me out, because even when he's walking around, some of his stance, I think he did a good job, but it's when it's having to do physical stuff, it can be tough. And sometimes, like I said, the eyes really took me out of it. There's some shots where he looked perfect, but other times where it looked a little glossy, a little glassy. So that's where, as far as the de-aging, it's a big thing. It's just like, and that's where it's tough, because me and Taylor talking about this with people and biases, right? And it's tough because Martin Scorsese, one of my favorite directors of all time. Like I said, I got multiple films in my top 10 and top 50. And I've honestly seen some people, when that's thrown as a criticism, go, "Oh yeah, but whatever. It's just, if that takes you out of it, there's something wrong with you. You're not a true film fan. Like, just look at the art." But it's just, they're putting this in the Oscars for visual effects, so clearly it's something that we should critique it on, in the same way as if you got a Star Wars movie, a Marvel or DC, the way that, "Oh, this looks great," or "Thanos looks great," or "This looks like crap. Why does this?" I saw that today with this the Rise of Skywalker clip with the They Can Fly. Like, oh, the same company that does this as Marvel. How come the Marvel movies look so much like crap? One, that's a little hyperbolic in my opinion, but two, still, people judge on effects, right? This is a very visual effects heavy movie as far as their faces, and I say it would work 75% of the time, because when it didn't, it really didn't, in my opinion. So would I'd rather have younger actors play him? That's such a tough debate. I would lay on the side of no, because I think De Niro does a good job, but still, it is it's you sacrifice it, right? We talked about that a while back ago with Watchmen, and as far as doing the old age makeup, yeah, sometimes it looked a little crappy, but it's like we got Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing the comedian, so I would take it. So it's kind of that same thing. I recommend this to almost everybody. If you're a Scorsese fan, yes. I think that if you're a Scorsese fan, you might not like. It depends on what you are a fan. If you're like me and you just love his work, I think you're gonna at least like this and appreciate it. I think it's a good movie. I think there's certain people, if you're not into slower movie, this is a very slow movie, very slow pace. It's 3.5 hours, and it's not to me like an Endgame. Not like a Lord of the Rings where it goes by. There's action set pieces. There's lots of reveals. Not that. It takes its time. It is like you are listening to someone sat down across from you and they talk to you for 3.5 hours about their life. And that's what this movie is. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's where, if that doesn't interest you, maybe this movie won't be for you. Maybe watch it in parts. I don't want to say that, but if to get through it, please do. And I think near the end you will like it more. That's who I would recommend it to. But if you like what I like and you've kind of heard what I've said, I'd recommend it to all of you. And I don't know if I don't think I need to. I'm trying to think what I want to say for spoilers, to be honest. I don't know. I really don't, because I don't think there's too much I want to get into. I'm going to go, and that's my recommendation. I'm going to hit a 3-2-1, so you can stick around. I've already given you my rating, a 9 or higher. It's for sure 9. It's not going any lower. It could be higher. I need another watch. This is one I really need to sit with its stuff, because that happens sometimes. But, as people trying to create content for this podcast, we try to get you our first impressions, what we think, and honestly, in a real world, if I were to watch this movie again and wait 2 more weeks, the traction of it goes down. That's the way it works. So thank you for tuning in. I'm doing my 3-2-1 right now. We're in the spoilers. Let me take a drink of water here and think if there's anything. Okay, I should have teased this in non-spoilers, but this is what I'll talk about. And I don't know if I said that on spoilers either. So here you go. One thing is I wish it worked for me, but they, like I said, officially in spoilers, the daughter and his relationship, Peggy, played by Anna Paquin, I wish I got just a tad more. Just a tad more. I feel like on purpose it is supposed to make you feel like you are distant from this child because he has a distant relationship with this child. He can't connect to her like the rest of them. And all the goddamn scene is so good at Christmas when Peggy gets the skates and the money. She gets the skates and they've set up that cousin. It's Saul, right? Is it Saul or why am I forgetting Joe Pesci's name in this? Cousin Russ. So it's Uncle Russ. That's what it is. Uncle Russell. That's what they call him, right? And to me, out of all the kids, you kind of get this intuition that she feels that he knows that her dad's up to maybe some bad stuff, and also that he's not a good guy, Cousin Russell. There's something about him. And he even says this, there's something about me. She just doesn't like me. And you get that too. You could understand that by Joe Pesci. He's very, like I said, creepy, but not in the overt way. So he gets in these skates and she's just looking up because she's a kid and she loves this present. She likes the idea of having this present, but then she can barely look him in the eye because she's either feels uneasy about him or is scared. And they're all like, "Oh, say thank you, say thank you." And she goes, "Thank you." And he goes, "Oh, like I left you a little something else in there." And multiple times throughout the movie, he's trying to win her over, and not in a Goodfellas kind of Bry way. It does feel like he genuinely wants to connect to this woman, or this woman. I'm saying that because she becomes one, but this girl, and she gets the money, and she looks up again, and they're all, "Oh, you gotta say thank. That's really nice." And she just won't say it, and he covers for her, but in the same way that, in the perfect way, he covers like, I understand it's a kid, but it also has this context of, I'm not going to get any better than this. And he just goes, she already said thank you once. That's enough. And it's also this very kind of calculating mob way, but there's so much subtext and context to it. So it's great. I wish I got a little bit more De Niro, but like I said, that was maybe the point of it, and maybe you'll see how I feel. It's kind of similar how Margot Robbie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where when I got out of it, I was like, how do I feel about this? And I felt better about it as we go on. But when I first got, I'm like, do we need all these scenes now with the way the story went? And that's where I felt with this. Not that we didn't need the scenes, but could we have used more? But it was by design of it's his story. He's looking back on it, and you are supposed to feel distant to her. And I like, because I had heard some people, she got, oh, I'm going to take a drink of water because that cricket came out of nowhere. People were saying like, "Oh, Anna Paquin's in the movie and you barely give her lines." Shout out to fucking Anna Paquin, who quote tweeted, and I was like, "I love being in a Martin Scorsese movie. I killed to be in this role. I'll take no lines whatsoever." So that's why I don't always speak for someone if they haven't spoken. That's why I love that she doesn't have that many lines. There's many looks, especially as she is Anna Paquin older. She's just almost like the impending doom of, she looks at her father, not like a monster, but just disappointed and not even scared because she knows what he is, just fed up and almost a little disgusted with him. But in the sense that it's still my dad, he's making money for us, and it's by family. But almost like there's an impending doom. She knows that one day he's going to hurt us or do something that I'm not going to like and I can't stand with, which he does, which I'll get to in the next spoiler part. That's my, I think, only other thing to shout that's phenomenal. And then when her first word, he kills Jimmy Hoffa, she goes, "Why?" Peggy hasn't spoken the whole movie. Really, she says thank you, a few little kid lines, but really of any big dialogue of note, nothing. And then when she says that, it's about that. And that's the only time she speaks again. And then later on, he bumps into her a few times because he says, "Oh, after that day, my daughter was dead." He bumps into her a few times at a funeral. He tries to connect with her there, tries to go to her work, and she won't even talk to her. And that's, I mean, there's no like moment. And that's why I always like Blow, go check out that movie. Similar ending where there's a fantasy ending where he gets to talk to his daughter, make up, and then they cut and they go, "No, she's not there." And it, like, the daughter never went to visit him, and for good reason. He was a criminal. I get it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That's to everybody's point of view. But if I had a friend that had a dad like that and said, "I just can't see him, I don't want to deal with them, tough times for my life," I'd understand. I have people like that have a situation, not exactly to the extent of, mass criminal organization, but similar things where I get it. You don't want to see your dad because he's a piece of shit. Even if he feels sorry about it now and regretful and he'd do anything to change it, he didn't change. He can't change it, right? So completely understand. I get that a lot more than other people might, funny enough. So that's where it's realistic, where there is no happy end. There is even no talk where it's just even the wrestler where that happens and she gives him this big, I don't want to see you, I don't want to look at you. Not just the cold shoulder, just I'm not going to talk to you. You're out of my life. And that's why those few lines of dialogues do mean a lot. So I'm weighing it back and forth, but I still wish I got a tad more, even when she was a kid. But I think it worked for me, and it's growing on me. And that's a funny thing, that why I want to watch this again, because when I first watched this film, I wasn't disappointed in the film. I was disappointed that I wasn't loving it as much as I thought I would. But since I watched it, and the more I'm talking about it, the more now I'm liking it more and more. Now I don't want to say, oh, it's a 10. Now I'm saying it's a 9.5 hard, but I'll keep it that. As far as, yeah, the more I think about it, I just enjoy it. And where I'll get to, I enjoyed a lot of the film, loved a lot of it, but the crescendo is that last hour. And when we get to, it's done in such a great way that, okay, so they're setting up, you can tell, it's classic mobster stuff. Robert De Niro's character is brought in by Joe Pesci's character as far as giving a life, a terrible life, but still a life, making money, is good with the mob. He's an untouchable man at one point, which I'll get to. It's done so well. Whether it's the book, I've never read the book. I knew of the book, but whether it's the book or for film, artistic liberties, whatever it may be, you can see there's this path where Joe Pesci brings Robert De Niro in. They're friends, blah, blah, blah. He, a mobster, they're getting in tight. Hooks him up with Al Pacino's Jimmy Hoffa, and he becomes his bodyguard, and they get tight too because he's seeing Jimmy Hoffa go through elections, going through the Kennedy stuff, going through him going to prison. He's standing with him there because the bodyguards, they're sharing rooms together. They're literally sleeping next to each other, side by side, and you see that bond growing. And then all these times where it's funny that most time it's cold calculated, and it is when Joe Pesci says, hey, you have to kill Jimmy Hoffa. When he eventually does do it, it is cold because it is just a matter of fact, I have to do this. But it's the lead up and the aftermath with it, just great. But before we get to that, you can see that there's the partnership built between all three, and then it slowly starts to crumble because the mob wants things done a certain way, and Jimmy Hoffa wants things done a certain way. And Jimmy Hoffa is will not budge at all for, and that's the best thing about Pesci's character. He genuinely feels like, I love that at the end when he just goes, I really didn't want it to go that way. I really didn't want it to go that way, and I feel bad, and I'm sorry that happened. And it's great because he put that on De Niro's character. And there's just this great moment where De Niro is getting this appreciation night, and it's not because of Jimmy Hoffa, but it kind of is indirectly because of his work with them, and he is popular around like other mobster communities, and people love him, but it's still just like he's more high profile now. But he picks Jimmy Hoffa to introduce him, and he gives him a watch, and there's all these photos, and it's just very chummy. And that's and it's so good because then later on Joe Pesci gives him this ring that is like, you're a made man now. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on. And then this night, this dinner, everything transpires where it's slowly going down, and Pesci says, you got to tell him it is what it is. Like, they've given all these chances, and then Jimmy Hoffa blew up on Joe Pesci. Not great, but they give him all these chances that you got to come with us, do what we want to do. Or they don't say this to him, or they kind of maybe just say, you got to do it, right? But to Jimmy Hoffa's point of view, they're saying, we would really want this to happen. And De Niro says this at one point, I think, where it's just like, I'm concerned means I'm really scared, and then when it says I'm a little more than concerned is I'm desperate. That's what this feels like, where Jimmy Hoffa goes, oh, they really want this. The mob's perspectives, we really want this, and if we don't get this, we're done. And Hoffa almost takes this as like okay. He does eventually, bring it up that, oh, they wouldn't dare do that to me, but Joe Pesci breaks it down to narrow of like, if the president can get killed, the president of the union can get killed. And that's such a good scene when he goes to him and he goes, they're not gonna. No, they wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. And he's like, "Don't be so sure. Don't." And he is the last warning because Joe Pesci pretty much just goes to De Niro and says, "You gotta convince him. You're the closest with them." And he tells De Niro he's not. De Niro doesn't tell us to Hoffa because he's trying to be cagey and he's trying to work both sides, not in a bad way, but try to be Switzerland and get everyone to come together. But Pesci's saying it is what it is. If you don't get him to change his mind, or if he doesn't change his mind, it's going to go down a certain path. And he doesn't. And then, but Hoffa, his hubris goes, no, they wouldn't dare do that. So anyways, they go on this trip, blah, blah, blah. They have some business to take care of. But then just soul crushing where, okay, so Joe Pesci says to De Niro, it's going to happen. It is what it is. There's no choice. I tried to make things work with Hoffa. It didn't. And then they go for a car ride, and then he gives them the news that we need to take him out. We need to ice him. We need to, paint the house. And you are the best course of action. And obviously that is because they have a relationship. He wouldn't see it coming. And with other people, because the way it's set up, it says, oh, we need you to meet these people. Russell, they're at a house. Other times, Hoffa might go, and we don't know for sure this would happen to Hoffa, but in this story and in this movie, other times we've set up that he wouldn't go with these people. He wouldn't trust them. He'd at least be smart enough to go, oh, something's up. But if he sees, one, his son's there, but even more so if he sees Rob De Niro character there, why do I keep forgetting his name? Was it Jimmy? It was Frank. Why did I think it was Jimmy? If he sees Frank there, it's going to be all good. And he is not going to question it, and he's not going to think, oh, they might be up to something bad. And then you can just see, and this is where De Niro's so good when he is told he's going to have to fly there. And such a mob thing. Pesci sits in a car. He says, you got to get on that plane, and you're going to fly back home, kill him, then fly back. Pesci just sits in the car and waits for him. That's where the cold, icicle motherfucker comes in. He does this, and the scene that De Niro, I cannot even describe how good this is. If he were to win an Oscar, which I don't think he will, and I don't think this movie will win Best Picture either. I just have a feeling. I don't think it will. I think it's just people will look at this as a great stamp by Scorsese, but I think they will award to something else. But there is no front runner this year, so you never know, and I wouldn't be mad because it's Martin Scorsese. The only way I could compare that scene to is if you've ever had to break up with somebody. And that's what I mean. You're going to go, this is a life, but this is someone's life compared to breakup. But I'm just saying from my point of view is you know what's coming, and you are just waiting for that right moment to spit it out. And obviously, it's a setup kill, so he knows that it's going to, he knows he's going to get him in the house and kill him. So it's not like a breakup where you go, okay, we're over. But it's just that you're trying to play it cool, and let's say it's like, oh, we got, I don't know, let's say you have a friend's birthday, right? And they're expecting you, so it's like, I don't want to break up with them yet because it's going to be awkward and we're all friends, so let's just go there, do this, and then maybe eventually. And you know what? That sounds shitty, but I'm sure we've all been there, right? You feel shitty, you're in that you're shitty in that situation. It's all shitty, and you feel terrible because you're going to hurt this person, but you are delaying the inevitable. It's a term I use. It's like that calm before the storm. That's what De Niro is to the nth degree, where this is easily the most emotional he gets in the movie, especially after he kills, and he has to phone his wife and play dumb. But that lead up of just, you can see he does not want to do this, but he has no other choice. And it's the same way, that's why I compare it to a breakup where maybe some breakups you might go, I want to do this. But let's say it is in a way where the person still loves you and it's just not working out for you. If you haven't been in that situation, good for you. I honestly do hope you break up with someone that hate, because it's a lot easier. If it's they still love me, or they still really like me, and I got to do this, it's tough because you're the one putting it down. You're the one ending it, and that's what this is. It's nothing. A breakup's different for him because it is personal versus, but even then, it's not personal in the sense of, with a breakup, you're doing it for your benefit, and you're thinking that would be best for both of you. There's personal feelings, but with this same thing, it's the best for Joe Pesci's character. It's the best for his family, because if he doesn't do this, if he goes against this, he's in the muck. He's in the danger. His family's in the danger, so you got to do it. So that scene, that lead up, that half an hour, whatever it is, of getting in the car, leading to his place, and same thing, the way he kills him, very quickly, very effortlessly, very nonchalant, just like everybody else, just show he's just like, at the end of the day, he can be rich and powerful, but a bullet in the head doesn't stop for rich and powerful. It stops for nobody. And that scene is fantastic, and that whole sequence. So, I love this movie. It's funny. The more I talk about it, the more I'm thinking about it, enjoying it, the more I can't wait to watch it again. I'm going to watch it again. I probably will watch it again, hopefully, maybe this weekend or whatnot. But, I love this movie, and I can't recommend enough to the people I recommend it to. I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but, I thank you very much for tuning into this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said all before, if you liked what I did here, give us a 5-star review, a written one. That's what helps us. If you would like to follow us, go down in the description down below. You got the video feeds, the audio feeds, and we'll be there pumping out tons of content in the next few weeks. So thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, it will not be boring. And go get your fucking shine box.